Hello, everyone, and welcome to Momentum Boost. I am your host, Adrienne Gold Davis, and I am truly honored to spend my time with you this evening. So this month, we're continuing our theme of courage at Momentum, and really there is nothing more courageous than starting again, than picking yourself up and beginning anew after facing adversity or sometimes after facing complete and total devastation. You see, choosing to live is a conscious decision that needs and requires resiliency. It's also a deeply Jewish mandate. In the Torah portion of Nitzavim, we find the famous commandment to choose life. We read the following: I call heaven and earth to witness you today. I have put before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life. Every single choice we make from the cradle to the grave has significance. Our choices, particularly from a moral and ethical perspective, are some of the only things that are truly in our domain. We know that greatness is not found in what happens to us, but that rather greatness is found by who we are in the face of what happens to us. And the decision to really live, to truly be alive, can be the most courageous and human part of us. In fact, it is the imperative of our souls. Tonight, we will be learning from two survivors of great trauma, two incredibly courageous people, on how to rebuild your life and even your dreams. I'm honored tonight to be joined by Inbal, Gilmore, Ratz, and Sapir. Sapir survived a devastating snowstorm and avalanche while trekking the Annapurna mountain range in Nepal in 2014. And while many of his fellow hikers tragically died during the storm, survived, but lost all 10 of his fingers due to severe frostbite. During his rehabilitation, began a journey of self-discovery and of rebirth. And he is now a champion rock climber. He's won gold medals across international rock climbing competitions. Now, in the year 2000, during the Second Intifada, that Palestinian uprising, Inbal Gilmore Ratz lost her first husband, Eish Chodesh Gilmore, of blessed memory. Motivated by a sense of duty and responsibility, Inbal has spent the last 20 years volunteering in numerous social initiatives within the field of Israeli Judaism and Jewish peoplehood. She was one of the founders of the Bayit Yisraeli Bashchona project in Modi'in, and she is a member of the board of My Truth, an NGO that supports Israeli soldiers in their struggle against the BDS movement. Inbal and more, thank you so much for joining us. It is an absolute honor to have you here with us today. So let's begin. Inbal, if I may, I'd like to begin with you.
Yes.
You are remarried. You are in love. You have a child with your first husband. How old was the baby when he passed?
So Talia, my oldest, was a year and a half when her father was killed. She was just a baby.
Does she probably likely has no memory of him, is that correct?
No. Even though I think, a short memory after he was killed, she used to look for him around the house. So, but now she doesn't remember anything.
And he was killed in a terrorist attack, is that correct?
Yes. He was killed in a terrorist attack in East Jerusalem. He was a security guard who was protecting the Social Security office in East Jerusalem, and terrorists entered where he worked and shot the security guards him and another security guard were injured. He was severely injured, and he passed away on the way to the hospital.
Oh. And so I assume that you maintained the narrative of his bravery, his courage, his service, and your love for him, while at the same time giving yourself the grace, actually the imperative, to love again and to rebuild your family with who I assume now is your daughter's father. Is that so?
It's true. It's true. It wasn't an easy task. And part of the way I was, walking in the dark and, talking to Hashem a lot in the process, and talking to my first husband for guidance. But yes, Talia looks at Ofer as her father. He's the one she consults with these days. He's the one to go to, before she joined the army. He told her what she's looking up against. And they have a very, very special bond. And he's very protective of her. Sometimes a little overprotective, but, it's just very, very special.
And one last question, if it's not too personal, did you feel survivor's guilt that affected your decision or your ability to fall in love a second time? Or did it feel like a mandate to you to recreate love and family for your daughter and for yourself?
I will tell you something that it will sound really, really strange, but I knew in my heart that Kodesh wants me to remarry. That he wants me to be happy, basically, whatever that means, to get remarried, or he wants me to be happy. I knew that it was something that I felt it. I kind of felt guilt for Ofer, because I was completely in love with my first husband, and this guy is completely in love with me. And we're just not standing in the same place. He's, running, and he knows where he's going. And my feelings are, I was very sad all the time. I was crying a lot. So honestly, I knew what Kodesh wanted, but I felt, I was in so much pain that I felt so sorry for Ofer, this young single guy who has no worries, who fell in love with this widow with the baby, who cries all the time, and I wasn't hiding my feelings to Kodesh. I was talking about my love to him and how much I miss him all the time.
Wow.
And
your husband must be an extraordinary man.
Yes, he is.
To believe in the power of love to heal, and also to understand that love can develop even from the rockiest soil. When we give and we give, it's not that love heals, because love doesn't heal, but love creates an environment where we can recreate ourselves and love again. Your husband must be an extraordinary man. And I did meet him once, and he's also extremely good looking, and that couldn't have hurt. That could not have hurt. So before I go on to our second guest, and of course I will circle back to you with many more questions, and I appreciate your transparency and your honesty, because many people hide feelings like that, and you don't get to reinvigorate your life unless you own all the truth of your feelings. It's part of your strength, Inbal. But more, before I begin to ask you some of these difficult questions, I'd like us to take a look for a moment at some footage about you.
בחיים אתה יכול לחרטט על אנשים, אתה יכול לחרטט במבחנים, אבל כאן זה אתה מול עצמך. אם לא הצלחת את הצעד, אתה יודע כי לא קפצת, כי פחדת, כי לא האמנת בעצמך. כדי להגיע ולסגור את המסלול, אתה חייב להיות הכי אמיתי עם עצמך, הכי ישר, הכי כן. טיפוס זה האמת. להכיר טיפוס לא היה משהו שעשיתי לפני. אני זוכר את הפעם הראשונה שנכנסתי ואמרתי שזה נראה לי מגוחך. אני לא יכול להבין איך בכלל אפשר לאחוז באחיזות בלי אצבעות. אני פוגש את המאמנת שם והיא אומרת לי שבכנות היא עדיין לא ראתה מישהו שמטפס עם קטיעה בצמד הידיים. אבל הבטיחה לי שהקיר הזה עושה קסמים.
Oh my. How do you feel when you look at that clip?
It's, all the journey from the first steps till the top in the World Championship came up in 50 seconds. And I appreciate every step that I made. And, it's the best. It shows us how hard it is to be a champion and how it doesn't come in one step. It's a lot of baby steps and many small steps that I made until I become the world champion. And this is one of them.
Let me ask you something. Do you think you have that clarity? Because what you're speaking about is the absolute truth, and it is what courage is. Some things life hands us in a very simple way, effortless way, without a lot of work, but hitting bottom, like you did psychologically, emotionally, physically, where literally the tools of your work were taken from you, and having to reimagine what you could do with the tools you had left. Did that make championship? Does that make championship sweeter? And what did it look like when you quite literally hit the bottom?
So in 2009, I drafted to the combat engineer unit, and this unit, the nickname of this unit is the Trailblazers. We need to Sapir away. I never knew which way they mean to, we need to Sapir, until I lost my 10 fingers. And then I realized, because no one can extract me now, and even you Google it, you cannot find any document about how to live without fingers. So literally, I faced with the bottom of the bottom, and I need to Sapir my own way how to deal with my life without fingers. The climbing is just a result, and to be a world champion, it's more than just a result. It's the benefit. But in the beginning, how to deal and how to raise a glass and how to write and how to drive again and how to do all the baby steps and the daily activities that we used to take for granted, and I didn't achieve it, forced me to bury my my past character and rebuild a new one without ego, without all the things that I used to say to myself, and make it more, let's say, more honest, and with a big question mark for entire activities that I might be able to do it or maybe not, but no one will decide before me if I will make it or not.
So it sounds to me like you made a very conscious decision, perhaps from a place of great desperation, that you would bury the old self. And, you know, when we think about how a seed grows, I'm sure you both know this, when you put a seed into the ground, it literally, it atrophies, it dies. And the new growth comes out of that. And in some ways, you know, Inbal, you literally buried someone, and more, you figuratively buried something, your ego, your identity. I'm curious, Inbal, was there ever a point where you made a decision to move forward? It sounds to me like Moore made that decision out of desperation and also out of clarity. Did you ever, was it gradual for you, or did you ever have a hitting bottom moment that made you make that decision to allow yourself to love your husband?
I think the moment, honestly, the moment where I made the decision to move on was at the hospital, when they asked me to come and basically see Kodesh for the last time. And I remember myself standing in that room next to him and talking to him in that very, very difficult moment. And I remember that I felt like I couldn't leave the room without making him a promise that I will be okay. Because I knew that the last thing that he was thinking about is me and Talia. So I knew that I can't send him away without that promise. And I knew at that moment, I knew that it's going to be a very hard thing to keep. But I didn't realize how hard it's going to be. But I realized that, and from that point, I started climbing. Okay, my next stage was, deciding where he's going to bury. I basically fought with the entire world, to make sure he will be buried in Jerusalem. And I don't know where I got the strength to even have this argument at that night, because we buried him the same night. So that decision was made then, right in that, point.
Well, I'm noticing something, and I want both of you to tell me if I'm correct. I have never, Bli Ayin Hara, experienced that kind of catastrophic loss. But it sounds to me like the decision, and it's interesting because you used the metaphor of climbing. You said you started to climb. Do you see why we chose to put the two of you together? Like honestly, do you think there is a kind of equation? I know that more when we spoke earlier, you mentioned an equation. I want you to talk about that. But before, Inbal, I want to point out that you said you made the decision right away, but it doesn't preclude the pain. Most people think if they make a decision that they're going to be okay, that they don't have to suffer the pain. But you said you made that decision at the beginning, and yet you cried and wept and mourned for months. I want our viewers to understand that making a decision does not mean there will be no pain. It just means there will be purpose within the pain. So more, can you explain to us the description you gave me when we spoke a few weeks ago about this equation?
So I wasn't a successful student when I was a teenager. So I need to complete my my math course again, and then the teacher repeat the basic formula in math. He told us about 2 + 2 is equal 4, and also 6 - 2, and also 10 - 6, and also 100 - 96, which means that there is infinite ways to achieve our goal and to achieve our summit and to achieve our dream. And it doesn't mean that if we didn't make it in the regular formula to achieve our 4 with 2 + 2,
wow,
doesn't mean that we don't have a way. It means that we just need to find a new way to make it happen. And I remember when he said that, I got a feeling that no matter what my missing parts are, as long that I will try at least 1,000 - 96 attempts, I will find a way. And nobody will tell me that there is no way to achieve what I want to without fingers. And when I stick to this belief, I think that everything becomes possible for me.
wow. I just have to ask you a question that I know everybody is probably thinking. Please forgive me if it sounds intrusive or disrespectful.
No.
What happens? I once had a couple of fingertips severed in an accident. They were reattached. Where does your sense of touch come from? Has it moved into your palms?
From everywhere. I feel it here. Yeah, when I'm shooting a ball in basketball, for example, or when I'm holding the holds in the climbing wall, on the climbing wall, I feel everything. I feel more alive than I lived before. We are more than just a body. I don't think that we must lose something important in our life, but as long that we are embraced, that we have some missing part in our life, we are more free and we are more open to fulfill ourselves in new stuff. And
Wow.
that's where I leave a place or some space for the climbing to enter to my life. Before, I wasn't a climber. And just after I lose my 10 fingers, I have enough space to be a climber.
Wow. Would you agree with that, Inbal, that somehow loss frees up space in your heart or your imagination? Is it perhaps that we take life for granted, and then when we see how tenuous, how in a moment it can be taken from us, we have a fuller and deeper, they say that a broken heart is bigger, somehow. Yeah. What do you think about what he just said? That's an extraordinary thing you just said, Mo.
First of all, I want to say that Mo is, wow, what an inspiration. And the way you look at things.
You too, you know that.
Wow. And I think I can relate, because when I lost Kodesh, I felt broken, meaning I felt different than other people. I felt like there's something damaged about me. I was sad all the time, and the world looked gray, and I kind of lost touch with the person that I was before. But I think in time, I was able to find a way to reconnect with the new me, and to even look at the abilities that I developed because of my situation as an advantage. I feel like I can really hold complexity in so much, in a better way than other people. I can see how I can react in situations, and if someone shares his pain with me, I don't run away from it. I can hold it, and I see how certain people, like, I feel worried to tell them my story. I feel like, oh my God, they're gonna, like, it's gonna be too heavy on them. You know what I mean? Some people, they can't handle your pain, and I can handle pain. And so I have that ability. I have that extra something that other people don't have. And, I got to be honest, but it took me a while to realize that. And it's something that I learned in therapy, that my therapist said, wow, you have such a deep and profound way of, like, looking at life. Even though your train was off the track completely, you have that something extra. So I see it. I see it when I'm talking to my girls. I have 4 girls. When I'm giving them tips about life, I see that I have an extra something that I bring to, the situation.
What you're both saying reminds me so much of, in our Torah, we learn that when the Mishkan, the traveling sanctuary, moved through the desert, that there was an inside box in the sanctuary, and it held the Aseret Dibrot. It held the 10 Commandments, right? First set, which Moshe shattered when he saw the people dancing around the idol, the golden calf, and the second set, which came down perfectly when we were forgiven as a nation. So metaphorically, the way I like to look at it is that we moved through the desert. We didn't just take the whole ones that were given to us after the first ones were broken. We took the broken and the whole, and we carried them in that Mishkan, because we are, all of us, we are a Mishkan. We are a temporary, movable sanctuary, and our hearts will be broken and whole at the same time. And sitting in that complexity, sitting in the gray, that is maturity. That is maturity. How old were you, Moore, when this happened to you?
I was 24.
And you, Inbal, how old were you?
I was 25.
Wow. Do you feel that maturity was thrust upon you earlier by understanding life's vicissitudes? Do you today feel an advantage? God forbid your beloved Kodesh should be alive and well, although he is in the heavens, and more, that you would have all your fingers. Barring that, what advantages from loss prepared you earlier for maturity, and how does that benefit you and the rest of the world? More, if you would go first.
So I remember that my friends this time were struggling with, which subject to take and if it's going to bring them enough salary for their career. And I had to deal with how to live without fingers. It's forced me to be a pioneer. And I think that the most benefit that this injury gave me it's to be kind of lighter of belief and show everyone when I'm speaking or when I'm climbing that everyone can climb and achieve his own summit no matter what his deficiencies. As long that you believe in yourself and you believe that there is a way for you and your challenge or your problem doesn't come to hit you down just because it came because you need to find a new strength in yourself, and you're going to find it only in the depth. So I am kind of lighter to show that everyone can climb.
Wow.
In life, and of course on a climbing wall as well.
Oh. And Inbal, what might you say?
I think for me, realizing that I have to juggle the pain in life, and meaning at some point I realized that the pain is not going away. Okay, it's there, and every year that passes by, and I'm like, what? I'm not better. At some point, I realized that it's chronic. Okay, it's not going to change. I'm going to miss Kodesh for the rest of my life. And when I realized that, I realized also that I want to be happy. I want to be in this life, and I want to be happy. And I think when I speak in front of people, a lot of time people who lost someone, widowers, are coming to me and they're saying, wow, is that, so it's normal to have the pain and then think I can move on and remarry? And I said, yes, because the pain is not going away. It's part of you, but it's making you stronger. It's making you a person who can, like I said before, who can, hold something wider and have that, deeper way of looking at life. And, maybe because it happened when I was so young, I had to mature so quickly. And I was this clueless young woman, seriously, with like carrying a baby. And all of a sudden I was a widow. So I think that point made me, definitely stronger. And the minute I realized I can do both, I can, hold the pain and be happy. And I know that it sounds impossible, but it is possible. And life is full, Baruch Hashem. I feel blessed, I feel really blessed.
Wow.
Amazing.
Well, I can tell you that we feel deeply blessed to have had the two of you and together a double dose of courage and meaning and the definition of choosing life, and also really the living example of that beautiful phrase that in our Torah that says the righteous person falls 7 times and gets up. It is not in the getting up. The righteousness is created in the falling and the getting up. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your strength, your hope, your courage, and your beauty. Thank you for choosing life and sharing how for all of our viewers in Momentum Land around the world. I am so personally humbled and honored to have spent this time with you tonight. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrienne.
A pleasure
Thank you,
to
Mo.
meet you both. Thank
Oh.
you.
Wow. Well, what can I say? We've learned so much from both of these extraordinary people. They're both true inspirations. You'll want to listen to this over and over and over on our YouTube channel, because I think this has the power to reframe everyone's life. And for me, Adrienne Gold Davis, and all of us at Momentum, please remember that as we learn and grow and climb together, that the highest form of wisdom will always be kindness. Good night, everyone.
I've got 1,000 questions coming from deep within. Wanna cut through the clutter. I need to know that my next move